Do we have someone that can go to the piano for us? Okay. Paul Feely's on his way. All right, so we're going to begin with a hymn that's going to get you on your feet. Praise the Lord with the sound of the trumpet. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. God, we give you thanks for this day, the day of resurrection. We give you thanks for the joys that we have shared already this day through worship, through the opening of the scriptures and the breaking of the bread, through the hospitality we have received in many parishes in this diocese. We give you thanks for the grace given to us through your holy table and through the tables prepared for us over lunch. We thank you once again for being able to assemble as General Synod. And we ask the guidance of your Holy Spirit on our work, that what we do may be done well to the good of your church and the glory of your name. Through Jesus Christ our Lord we pray. Amen.
Your Grace, if I may, just a couple of announcements before the afternoon session begins. Members of Synod and observers and guests from the Diocese of Huron, with the exception of the primate-elect, are invited to gather immediately following this session, right when it ends, over in that corner on the far side of the podium. That's all members, all people here from the Diocese of Huron. A reminder that cathedral deans who are here are, well, I guess the ones who aren't here wouldn't be invited, but the ones who are here are invited to gather for lunch together tomorrow, Monday. There will be a table in the pavilion ballroom set aside for cathedral deans. Those are all of the announcements, Your Grace. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear Archbishop Linda, are you already feeling like the sometime Bishop of Huron? It happens fast, believe me. Yeah. Okay. I want to acknowledge a new face at the table. To my right is Anne Burke, who is the Vice Chancellor of the General Synod, and she, of course, steps in whenever the Chancellor needs to be attentive to some other duties and responsibilities away from the head table. So thank you very much, Anne, for being here to offer guidance as may be necessary. So we have the order of agenda for this afternoon. We're beginning with a report from the Pension Office Corporation, and there are several resolutions, and I'll ask Bishop Philip Poole to introduce our guest. Pardon me?
Thank you very much, Your Grace. Your Grace, ladies and gentlemen in Synod, on behalf of the Pension Committee and the trustees of General Synod, I am pleased to present this report to you. I was in the elevator the other day. I don't know if you've had any issues with kind of putting your card against the elevator and then finding the button and trying to do it quick enough before the door shut. Bishop Asbell was telling me he was in the elevator, and there was a guy who was having a terrible time. He was pushing the elevator and putting his card against it and pushing it and putting his card again. And finally, Bishop Asbell said, "Excuse me, sir, I don't think your Visa card will work there." It's all good news. The pension plan is in good shape. We're managed by a terrific staff under the very expert leadership of our superb Executive Director, Judy Robinson, who's sitting over here. It's wonderful. It's overseen by a very highly qualified group of trustees. It's invested by competent managers, and it's recognized as being very well run. I wonder if all the members of the pension plan, active, retired, General Synod, and lay pension plan would stand up, please. If you're working for the church, you're in it. Thank you very much. You can be seated. As one who benefits from our pension plan, I want to say thank you to the church for making it possible for us to have a General Synod pension plan and lay retirement plan. We are fortunate because there are only 40% of Canadians employees have a company pension plan, and the vast majority of those come from the public sector. And I want to just say thank you very much to the church. My first word is to say thank you that we have a pension plan in the first place. So thank you very much. The pension plan office is open. The staff is there. Judy would welcome your coming. They're on the 3rd floor in the North Tower. If you have questions about your own plan, would like to have some advice about it, they'd be more than happy to receive you. At the last General Synod, there was a motion passed inviting the Pension Committee to enter into dialogue with other entities of the Anglican Church of Canada around what might be broadly referred to as ethical responsible investing. We were delighted to receive that invitation and to be included in that group, and indeed one of our trustees, Bob Beckner, has taken a leading role in the Responsible Investing Task Force. In the past 3 years, the Pension Committee and the trustees have taken that invitation very seriously, and we have implemented a variety of measures ensuring environmental, social, and governance issues are on the agenda of each and every one of our meetings. We've received reports from our fund managers about their work on our behalf in ESG issues. We've encouraged all of our managers to be signatories of the United Nations Principles of Responsible Investment. We have proactively invested in a positive change fund which focuses on 4 themes: social inclusion and education, building a more inclusive society; environment, reducing the environmental impact of economic activities; health care and quality of life in both developed and developing countries; and the base of the pyramid, which is addressing the basic need of people at the bottom of the global income ladder. We've implemented a review process through one of our fund advisors so that we better understand how each of our fund managers are doing in relationship to ESG matters. We're pleased at the progress we're making, and we undertake to continue to do that in the future. I can assure you that your pension fund takes this area as one of critical importance in our time. And I invite you to read the report of the Responsible Investing Task Force in your convening circular. You will see the motions that are coming from the Pension Committee to you are all on the no debate list. The pension field is a complicated and complex one. Each province and each territory in Canada have their own distinct regulations and rules around pensions. The industry is highly regulated as governments seek to ensure that those who have pensions are protected. From the point of view of the Anglican Church plan, we have members and employees active, non-active, and retired in every province and territory in Canada. Since the pension plan is domiciled in the province of Ontario, we are required to report to the pension authorities in Ontario. Almost every motion you see before you on the consent or no debate list is there in order to ensure that our plan is compliant with changing regulations in the pension field. In every case, General Synod has reviewed them and has recommended them for your approval. There is, however, one that we would like to draw your attention to particularly. It's motion A171, was adopted by the Council of General Synod in March of this year. It comes to you after a decade of diligent and frankly frustrating discussions with the province of Ontario, which has finally yielded the result that we've been working toward. In short, the proper categorization of our plan under pension rules. We are grateful to the Government of Ontario for including in its most recent budget an indication that we have been granted what we have been long requesting. Now, if you will agree to pass the changes of our governing canons, it will strengthen our plan going into the future and enable the trustees to consider bringing the lay retirement plan into the General Synod pension plan and allow the trustees the option of adding other pension groups into our group. Your Grace, I will yield the microphone to Cameron Hunter. Cameron is the principal with Eckler, which is our actuarial firm. I was going to tell an actuarial joke, but I decided I better not do that. There aren't any in that field, I don't think. Cameron is a well-regarded expert in the field. He's often requested to consult with governments around pension rules and regulations. He's been an invaluable advisor to us. Cam will give General Synod a brief financial overview of where the fund currently stands, explain the reasons behind the changes we are seeking in our governing canons, and the possible outcomes that flexibility will allow. Once the presentation has been made, Your Grace, we would invite you to receive some questions of the floor if there are some, and then I would offer some concluding remarks, and then we will introduce the motion with your permission. So with your permission, I would hand over the microphone to Cameron Hunter.
Thank you very much, Bishop Poole. Thank you. I appreciate you not making actuarial jokes. As you see, I normally look at someone else's shoes when they start talking to me, and there's no shoes in front of me here to look at. I do have a deck here. I wanted to thank you for sitting in on coming back and listening to a presentation on pensions, which can be a challenge, and in particular one that's given by an actuary, so it's a double challenge. I understand that, and hopefully you didn't have too much pasta at lunch so that you're not ready to nod off in any event. The pension plan is, as Bishop Poole has said, is exceptionally well run. It's been very successfully run for many, many years, many decades, in fact. We've recently been trying to enter into the next phase of the evolution of the plan, and that requires some canon changes. Because the nature of the changes, I was asked to attend here, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. The purpose of this is to give the background of the changes that are being sought, and then I'll end with what the changes are. So just a little bit on the plan itself. Judging by the number of people that did not stand up when Bishop Poole asked who is participating in one of the two plans, the General Synod plan or the lay plan, I'm going to take a stab that many people here don't know whether they're in this plan or not, at least when the first question was posed. So hopefully I don't fall into actuarial speak, and I can explain these concepts to you. The first is to really define what the General Synod pension plan is. It is a target benefit multi-employer pension plan. The second part of that definition is pretty easy. It's multi-employer. That just means that there's more than one independent entity that employer that's participating in the plan. The target benefit piece I'm going to come back to in a moment. I've got some statistics here on the plan. Suffice it to say that the plan is very large. And in fact, I was just told as of the end of June, the plan has reached an all-time high in terms of assets of about $912 million. It's a very large fund. And in the pension world, bigger is better. So this is good. It's also currently in a very good, strong financial position. You can see the statistics there. There's about $187 million of assets more than are needed to provide the promises of the pensions that have been made. And what's more, we have a little bit more money coming in that's actually required to fund the benefits. For every dollar coming in, we need about 74 cents to pay for the pensions that are currently being earned. So there's a little bit of buffer there as well. So the plan is in fairly strong shape currently. The question always is then, well, what about tomorrow and tomorrow's tomorrow, et cetera? The trustees have done a 30-year projection on the plan, and the plan is projected to continue to be healthy and sustainable over that 30-year projection period. So often we get asked, is the plan in good shape? What's happening with it? The plan currently is in a good shape, and it looks like it will continue to be in good shape over the long terms. Like all events, there might be some bad periods and some good periods, but generally over the long term, the plan will be in very good shape. I'm going to get back to that target benefit definition. There are generally three types of pension plans in Canada right now. One is a defined benefit plan. That simply means that what we know is how much you will get out of the pension when you retire. What we don't know is how much it's going to cost. This is a traditional, typical pension plan. If you go to work for a bank or a manufacturer or any other typical employer, single employer, that's the arrangement that is in place. The employer makes a promise of a pension, and they're obligated to pay whatever it takes to provide that pension. At the other end of the spectrum, we have what's called a defined contribution. What's known as how much goes in. What's not known is how much you get out at the end. I really don't call that a pension plan. That's a savings plan. What you have is a pot of money. When you retire, you have to decide what you're going to do with that pot of money. And then we have one that's kind of in the middle, this target benefit plan. It's the same concept. The contributions going in are fixed, but what we do when the contributions going in, we guess how much pension those contributions are going to buy. And we may have to adjust that as our guesses change over time, but we have the ability to make that adjustment. That's why this is a target benefit plan. This is the type of plan that those of you that are in the General Synod plan, that's the type of plan that you're in. And one of the key features of this, again, my comment of bigger is better, that applies in spades here, because what we're really doing is sharing the risk of pensions across as many people as possible. So what's happening in Canada right now? The first is that employers don't like defined benefit pension plans. That first category that I described, because what they don't know is how much it's going to cost. It's also a risk for employees. You may have heard of some recent employers that are no longer with us, Sears, Nortel, et cetera. Those plans did not have enough money in them, and the employer is no longer around to provide the pension promise. So that risk then shifts to the plan members. But there's a big risk on providing a pension or anything when you don't know what the ultimate cost is. With a defined contribution plan, all the risks are borne by the plan members individually. So you have to decide how you're going to invest your investments under those plans, and you have to guess how long you think you're going to live once you retire. How much money do you need? If you think you're going to live a long time and don't, if you think you're going to live a short time and live a long time, those are risks that you individually have to take on. Under a target plan, all of these risks are shared. What you get under a target plan is a defined benefit type of benefit. It's payable for your lifetime. The only issue is maybe it gets adjusted from time to time. Now I'll stop here for a moment and say I've been involved with the General Synod pension plan since 1994, and the only benefit adjustments that have ever been made to this plan have been upwards. There's never been a downwards adjustment, which is the nature of a target benefit plan. So it is a double-edged sword, but the plan has been managed very well on a relatively conservative basis, and so any of the adjustments have always been upwards. What's happening now is many large target benefit plans recognized that bigger is better. And one way to get bigger is to bring in more groups into their pension plan, more employers into their pension plans. In Ontario, there are two large public sector plans that are actively doing this. One is the Ontario Public Service Employees Union pension plan, and the other is the Colleges of Applied Arts and Technology plan. Both are actively out promoting to get more employers participating in the plan for all of these reasons. As Bishop Poole had mentioned, this has been on the table for the General Synod plan for almost 10 years. The key driver really was an assessment of the difference between a defined contribution plan, which is the lay retirement plan, against the General Synod plan, which is a target benefit plan. Why do we have these two types of plans when the consensus is that the target benefit plan can provide a greater pension with lower risk for the same level of contributions? So is there a way that we can get the lay plan to participate, employers to participate in the General Synod plan? Once we start talking about that, the question then becomes, why are we just talking about the lay plan? Are there other groups out there that maybe would be a good fit for the General Synod plan as well? And that's where we're at today. In order to implement these changes, we need some changes to the canons to allow this to happen. Why it makes sense is that the General Synod plan, as I've said, is a very well run, very well governed private sector pension plan. Why are we constraining this to just the Anglican community? Should we potentially open the doors to allow other like-minded entities to participate in the plan? I also mentioned the lay plan as well. The bigger is better is an efficiency argument that there's a lot of fixed costs that are incurred that get spread over a larger base. So on a per member basis, the costs are lower when you've got more members. The plan already covers individuals that work right across the country. And as Bishop Poole said, every jurisdiction in Canada has their own separate set of rules. And it would be nice if there was some consistency. There is some, but it's fairly minor. The pension office already has a system in place that can handle employment in any jurisdiction. So the infrastructure is already there. And then finally, one of the realities that we've observed, or I've observed over the last almost 30 years, is that there's been a slow but steady decline in the active membership. And it's been fairly slow and fairly steady. But is there a way to offset that by bringing new groups in? So these are the reasons why we looked at this. Right now, there are already many employers participating in the lay plan that could participate in the General Synod plan. I said there's about 1,500 active members on an earlier slide currently in the General Synod plan. There's about 1,000 members of the lay plan as well. So it's a large group that potentially could join. What that provides them is they've now moved from this environment where they don't know what they will get at retirement, because we're now moving into the target benefit world with a defined benefit. They will know the amount of pension that they will get with a fair degree of confidence that they actually will receive that because they're participating in a large plan. As I said, there's a great deal of efficiencies offered through the General Synod plan. So for every dollar that comes in, the members can get a little bit more pension. Under the lay plan, the individuals make the investment choices for their own pot of money. That's not the way it works on the General Synod plan. The trustees direct all the investments. It's one big pot that everybody participates in. Under the lay plan, every member has their own pot, and that pot is invested however that member chooses. So the General Synod plan has an expert board of trustees that are guiding the investments that allow them to invest in more broadly diversified investments that typically aren't available and currently aren't available to the lay plan, and someone else is making the investment decisions for them. I mentioned earlier, a lot of people like the savings plan because the common argument I hear is, well, what happens if I receive one pension check and then pass away the next day? And sadly, that happens. But more often than not, individuals run the risk of outliving the amount of savings that they have. That can't happen in the General Synod plan because you'll receive the pension for your lifetime. And then finally, there's an incredibly strong governance structure in here between with the pension office, with working groups, the board of trustees, the pension committee. There's a very strong, robust governance structure overseeing the whole system. So graphically, I've got a little chart here about the General Synod plan. You can see all the attributes of it. It's a great alternative to the lay plan. So the question is, why are we doing this now? Well, the first is that legally, despite your governance structure, legally, the plan, the government looks to the Board of Trustees as the final decision maker for the plan. It's not the case for your plan, but that's where the regulators look. The trustees owe a fiduciary duty to all plan members. A fiduciary duty is simply a responsibility when an individual or a group of individuals can unilaterally make decisions that affect other people. So in this case, the Board of Trustees, on their own, manage the pension assets for all of the General Synod members. So they have a fiduciary duty, which is a fairly high standard. One element of this is that they have to act in the best interest of all plan members. And one of the questions that was posed a number of years ago is what's the equity, what's the fairness in having two types of plans with varying value to basically the same set of employees. Some just happen to participate in the lay retirement plans and others in the General Synod plan. There seems to be an inequity there. The House of Bishops considered this issue twice, actually, and has agreed that participating in the General Synod plan provides greater value to lay members. Now, one of the handcuffs we have is that we're bound, the provincial government wants to ensure that if you promise a pension, that you put in place appropriate systems and funding regime to make sure that pension is paid. The problem is that this plan is very unique in terms of the regulatory environment in which it sits. And one of the problems with that is, in my view, inappropriate funding rules have been imposed on the plan. And those inappropriate funding rules greatly increase the risk that I mentioned before, that benefits had never been reduced. These funding rules greatly increase the risk that benefit reductions could occur. And for those members of the General Synod plan, you've been asked 3 times now to have these inappropriate funding rules not apply to the plan, and you've agreed with that. But the problem is we're still notionally under those inappropriate rules, and it wouldn't be prudent to bring in the lay members when we're still potentially at risk of being bound by those rules. Having said that, through vigorous lobbying efforts, we're very hopeful that the new rules will be announced either this year or at the latest next year. And then finally, we knew that we needed some canons to be changed, and we understand the process that the General Synod needs to approve canon changes, and we wanted to get the canon changes at this session of General Synod, so that when we're able to bring the lay plan in, we already have our internal structure in place to do that. So the starting point was the lay plan. That's the obvious starting point. But the consideration was potential other employers outside the Anglican community. There was discussion with respect to other religious organizations, as well as other groups whose values align with Anglican values, and finally with favorable demographics. And in fact, I'd probably say that in the reverse, that they don't have to be favorable demographics, they can't be disadvantageous demographics. The key demographic is age, because pensions increase as members age, so we don't necessarily want to bring older groups in that may cause future problems for us. And I've said a few times the strengths of the General Synod plan, that it's a quality plan. The benefits are very good. It's very well run. There's very impressive infrastructure in place, and the proof is in the pudding that the performance of the General Synod plan for the last few decades has been stellar. Part of this process is that we will be considering the plan design under the General Synod pension plan. One of the realities that we'll have to face is that there may need to be some flexibility in the plan design when new groups might want to join. When we get to that phase, we will be looking at some plan design. That doesn't mean taking away anything that you've already got. So anything you've already got, that's in place, that's not going anywhere. What we're talking about is on a future basis, and really only in respect of new groups that join. So there may be changes coming forward, but it won't affect it shouldn't affect the pensions that you're earning. And those potential plan changes, when they're finally addressed, they'll of course have to come to General Synod as well. So what are the canon changes that we're looking at? We're looking at changes to Canon 8 in respect of the General Synod plan, and Canon 9 in respect of the lay plan. And really all these are doing for the General Synod plan, all we're looking at doing here is putting in place the ability to take in new groups. There is no commitment to do anything at any point in time, but these changes are required so that in the event we get to the point where we can get new groups in, we're able to do it based on our own governing documents. So you can see there's really three categories under the General Synod plan. The first is to allow new groups to join. Right now, the pension plan and the LTD plan are tied together. We needed to delink those for new groups to make sure that We weren't necessarily providing LTD benefits to members that currently are not within the Anglican community. And then we're actually updating some of the certain trustee provisions to modernize them a bit. With the lay plan, there is really one change, and I would put this more in an administrative category. Currently, there is no ability for anybody to terminate the lay plan, which just from an overall governance perspective doesn't really make a lot of sense. So the Canon 9 will be amended to allow that, but with one proviso. It can't just be terminated. It can only be terminated if a successor plan is put in place. And the intention is that the General Synod plan be that successor plan. With that, I've concluded my remarks, and I don't know if we have time for questions or not, but if we do, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you very much, Cameron. And yes, we will entertain questions for clarification.
John McBride, Diocese of Ottawa. Cameron, thank you for your presentation. It is a complicated area. Just the General Synod pension plan has a surplus, which you indicated. Will that be in jeopardy if another plan joins? Will they have access to our surplus if they come in with a deficiency?
No.
Okay. There. That was pretty clear.
I could expand on that if you want, but the short answer is no.
Microphone 2.
Just a quick question. You had said the plan has done well over the last few decades. Can I ask how well it did in the Great Recession? How was it? Was there problems there at least, possibly?
So the Great Recession, in my recollection, was in the 1930s. If you're talking about 2008,
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, minus 19% in that 1 year, which, from my assessment, is about typical for plans.
Microphone 1.
Your Grace, Rob Dixon, Diocese of New Westminster and current member of the Pension Committee. I'd just like to encourage members to think positively about this series of motions. To my mind, what the Pension Committee and the trustees and Cameron Hunter and his advisors are allowing us to do is to fix the one serious issue we have with our plan, and that's the comment that we have more people retired than we have active members. And that trend is probably in our plan going to continue. So to gain long-term strength, to be able to add great numbers or other numbers to our plan is really the answer to long-term continued success. And I would just commend the wonderful advisors that we have.
Thank you. Any other questions for Cam? Yep, microphone 1.
Philip Durr from Diocese of Toronto. Just a curious question for those who left Anglican Church of Canada, clergy, and those who can they continue to contribute to their pension?
I'm sorry.
So for clergy who left Anglican Church of Canada,
Yes.
can they continue to contribute to the pension until they retire?
So clergy that have left the Anglican Church?
Of Canada, yes.
No, the employer has to participate in the plan. If they're working for an employer that participates, or potentially a new employer that participates, then yes, but they cannot on an individual basis.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Your Grace, if I could just, a word of conclusion. I want to say thank you to the newest member of the retired group of the pension plan. Archbishop Hiltz is an ex officio member of the Pension Committee. He's just taken that role very seriously. Fred has attended nearly every Pension Committee meeting in person to give us a kind of State of the Union address, sharing something of the life and work of our primate. His observations of the wider Anglican communion and his experience of our church from coast to coast to coast. Archbishop Hiltz is in the midst of all the numbers, the actuarial tables, the regulations, the financial outlooks, currency hedging, asset mix, and general oversight of the 6 funds we oversee. You put a face on those we serve, reminding us of whose church this is and who it is we serve. And for that, from the bottom of our hearts, on behalf of the Pension Committee, we say thank you. Thank you, and please, you and Lynn, enjoy your pension. Your Grace, there are 4 motions for General Synod to consider. The first one is A170, which has to do with continuing education. The second one is 171, which has to do with what we were just talking about, changes to General Synod pension plan and benefits. This 172 is lay retirement pension plan and benefits, and 173 is a long-term disability plan. These will all be moved by the Venerable Alan Perry, all seconded by the Venerable David Seltzer, and we would invite you to invite them, sir, to put those.
Thank you very much. And these, I believe, are all on the no debate list, correct? So that means the mover will have an opportunity to speak briefly, 3 minutes, and then we move to the vote. So A170 regarding the continuing education plan. Alan.
Thank you, Your Grace. Alan Perry, Diocese of Edmonton, and very pleased to be a member of the absolute best standing committee ever, the Pension Committee. All I'm saying is, when we elect committees tomorrow, vote for me. Thank you.
Not like putting yourself out there.
I would say that really the work of the Pension Committee I see fundamentally as a question of social justice. It's about providing for the care and nurture of our clergy when they are disabled, to help them to get continuing education, and to care for them in their retirement. And of course, not just clergy, the lay people as well, who are part of that plan or the lay retirement plan. That's what the committee is about. It's about making sure that people are properly cared for and that their lives are decent, whether they're seeking education, disabled, or retired. And so I'm really proud to be part of that work of social justice within our church. And so it gives me great pleasure, Your Grace, to move A170, that we confirm the changes to the regulation of the continuing education plan as previously adopted by Council of General Synod.
Thank you, Alan. So the motion is before you. If you'd please get ready to vote. Please click. Thank you, everyone who voted. Thank you. Voting's closed. Here we are. Thank you very much. The motion's carried. Thank you. We move to motion A171. Alan is also speaking to this.
Thank you, Your Grace. Alan Perry, still from the Diocese of Edmonton. And I'm very pleased. I had memorized Cameron's speech and had worked out how to say it in 3 minutes, but I won't. So I'm just very pleased to move A171.
Thank you. Please get ready to vote, everyone. Okay. Please vote. Okay, everyone in the room voted? Okay. Voting's closed. Thank you. Motion is carried. A172. Alan?
Thank you, Your Grace. Alan Perry, Diocese of Edmonton, and a very happy member of the Pension Committee. And I am very pleased to move A172. And I didn't mention previously, this is, of course, seconded by the Venerable David Seltzer.
Thank you. Please get ready to vote. Please vote. Okay, everyone voted? Voting's closed. Thank you. There's the results. The motion is carried. And A173. Alan.
Thank you, Your Grace. Alan Perry from the Diocese of Edmonton and from the best standing committee ever, the Pension Committee. And I'm very pleased and honored to move this motion, seconded by the Venerable David Seltzer of the Diocese of Ottawa.
Thank you. Ready to vote? Please vote. Thank you. Everyone voted? Voting's closed. Thank you very much. That motion is carried as well. Thank you very much. And I think Alan Perry still wants to be on the pension committee. I'm wondering, Judy Robinson, just before you slide out, as you're prone to do, just come up there on the podium so we can say a quick word of thanks to you. Judy's been the executive director of the pension plan for how many years, Judy?
16.
16 years. And just done incredible work, as we all know. And I want to say just a thank you to you, Judy, for your work and for the work of your staff. Repeatedly, what I hear across the church, and I know bishops across the church hear this as well, that you and your staff provide a tremendous ministry to members of the plan in times that are both happy as they think about sabbaticals and continuing education opportunities, as they think but also difficult times as they face illness or death in their families, and of course then as they face transition in their lives with moving into retirement. So what we hear across the church is a deep appreciation for the way in which their inquiries are received and so promptly addressed in such a very competent and caring way. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron Hunter, for being here. One can only hope you're here for a few days and not just for this 1 hour. But we appreciate you making the effort to be here and make the presentation. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, is Karen Egan in the house? Yes, Karen, I think the report from the new COGS, is that complete now?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Slide is ready.
do you have it, or Lisa, do you have it? Okay. Is it possible for us to have the slide on the screen? So this is the result of the provincial caucuses and the work they did in electing the Council General Synod. Thank you very much. Mr. Chancellor, do we require a resolution to ratify this? Okay. And who's moving that?
Karen, that would be Karen.
Oh, sorry. Karen, you're moving that? That the General Synod ratify the results of the election process in the provincial caucuses?
Yeah, we actually elect them.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, General Synod actually elects them. So the motion should be that General Synod elect the people on those lists as members of the Council General Synod.
Thank you.
So I so move.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your clarity. So we're electing the slate. David's moving. Do we have a seconder? Thank you. I know your face. I can't remember your name.
Gilles Tessier, Diocese of Algoma, and I'll second that.
Thank you very much, sir. So it's moved and seconded. We can do it. Yes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? Carried. So we have a new Council of General Synod. Congratulations.
Peter is saying we may only get.
So we have a new primate, a new prolocutor, a new deputy prolocutor, and a new Council of General Synod. Now, the next resolutions have to do with some of the most important work you're going to get into. So, Resolution A102, this is the process to re-examine the mission of General Synod, and then A103, the strategic planning process for moving toward 2022. These are both on the no debate list. So we'll just, again, have the movers speak for a few minutes, 3 minutes, and then we'll proceed to the election, to the vote. So the mover for A102 is?
Myself.
Oh, Cynthia, thank you. Do you want to do it here, Cynthia?
Yes. So at the Council of General Synod, as the triennium drew on, it became clear that we need to take some time to reevaluate the mission of General Synod, the structures, our relationship with dioceses and provinces, and also including our relationship with the self-determining Indigenous Church, and to do some serious work and consideration and to evaluate, as it says here, how to best enable and serve God's mission. We all, in our own places, understand the pressures and stresses that the church is under in today's world, financial, demographic. So in order for us to respond properly to those challenges, we need to take some time to really think about who we are and what we do and how we do it. And that's the purpose of this motion, which comes from the Council of General Synod to this General Synod.
Thank you, Cynthia. Are you ready to vote? Thank you. Please proceed. Okay, everyone voted? Okay, voting closed. Thank you. The motion is carried. And now Resolution A103. I'll turn the microphone to Cynthia again.
in our Constitution, under the powers of the Council of General Synod, it says it shall be responsible for overall strategic planning and visioning within the mandate of the General Synod. It also says at the beginning of the mandate for the Council of General Synod that it would consider any matter that's referred to it by this General Synod. So it is actually the responsibility of the Council to initiate a planning process. As you know, we've had the strategic directions and the priorities and practices for Vision 2019, and the Council extended that to 2022 in order that a strategic planning process may be undertaken with a new primate. So this motion is so that the General Synod would give strength to that work, priority to that work, the work that it is the responsibility of the Council of General Synod to do. And so we bring before you this motion that this General Synod direct the Council of General Synod in partnership with the entire Church prayerfully to undertake a strategic planning process that will lead to the presentation of a proposal to the 2022 meeting of the General Synod for our ministry and mission with the General Synod. And significant words in this motion, and significant words that were added by the Council of General Synod with the entire Church, and who prayerfully undertake the strategic planning process. So we present that to you, moved by myself and seconded by Peter Wall.
Thanks, Cynthia. Please prepare to vote. Please vote now. Okay, everyone voted? Voting closed. Thanks. Thank you. The results are before us. The motion is carried. Thank you. So, some very important work ahead for the Council of General Synod. Thank you. Now, just with regard to the item on the agenda with respect to motions seeking consent to receive resolutions, that is for the Synod to receive resolutions. The Chancellor and the assessors, that's why David wasn't in his chair, they've met and they've advised me that this item on the agenda about request for consent for possible motions to reconsider or any late motions with respect to the marriage canon will not be dealt with today. Also, to remind the House that the Order of Bishops continues to work on a response, and you're asked to continue to pray for them as they do that work and for the entire Church. So that's just some information at this point for the Synod, an update. I wonder if I could ask Archbishop Mark, can you just say a brief word to Synod, Mark, about the nature of a gospel jamboree? So people, because not everyone in the House may know what a gospel jamboree is, or they may not have been to one.
Thank you, Your Grace. a gospel jamboree is the name that we use commonly in Canada for an Indigenous expression of faith that is found across Turtle Island. As you may know, Indigenous spiritual traditions like smudging and those sorts of things were outlawed until the 1960s. It was illegal to practice Indigenous expressions. And so a lot of the values, ideals, and practices of Indigenous faith went underground into hymn singing. And hymn singing traditions spread all across the land. They were extremely popular, a lot more popular than attendance of church on Sunday, which led to some troubles. But anyway, we will be trying to follow in that tradition with you tonight, and to give you, I'll be saying more about that, but we hope that everyone will join us, and we will try to give you a sense of what life is like on our reserves and in some of our urban areas as well when we come together. So for many people, the term enculturation is a word that you would understand. Other people would say contextualization. This is an example of the contextualizing or the enculturation of Christian faith from an Indigenous perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. There'll be lots of singing.
Yes,
Yes,
here.
it's in here, is it, Peter?
Yes,
Yes, so
it's in
Peter, back to you then for some announcements.
Just one very brief announcement that everyone is invited to the Pavilion Ballroom in 2 minutes and 38 seconds for a very special reception and a very special banquet this evening with special guests present with us. Thank you.
So we're done now? We're done. Okay. And yes, and there's no other business to do. So just the reception and dinner, and then the gospel jamboree at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.